Hey guys, so this is our part one to our final. Yeah.
This is the crime scene management. So the first person who enters a crime scene is the initial responder, the first responder, which would usually be an officer, and he enters the crime scene, and the first thing he needs to do is to make sure the crime scene is secure. So doing that, maybe putting up tape, making sure there's no bystanders or citizens, walking into the crime scene. And then another good thing to do, or a thing that they do, is to separate the witnesses, just so they're not talking about the crime
what
or
happened.
the issue.
Yeah.
Do you want to go into?
So the reason why it's very important to separate the witnesses is because you don't want the witnesses to contaminate eye testimony and what they saw, because we humans tend, when we hear things, we tend to be like, oh yeah, like, did I see it like that? Or wait, or is Gracie right? Did Gracie see it better than I did? And we tend to think that the other person is more accurate than we are, and so we tend to become more biased and lean towards that than what we saw. And it's also very important to make sure that they are away from the body, just so they don't see what's going on, and don't get emotional, because that can affect what is going on around the crime scene.
I think talking about first responders and witnesses, it's important to keep in mind that the first responder isn't always the officer that arrives on scene. Sometimes there can be EMT or firefighters, or even in one case, there was you said there were like some like volunteer.
Oh yes.
Paramedics or something that showed up, and sometimes those people can have they have some training, but not training in.
And also typically sometimes they don't have to have training.
Yeah.
It could just be a mother, two siblings, two siblings are home alone, one sibling accidentally kills the other sibling. Now the parent is now the first responder.
Yeah.
Because they have some form of training.
Yeah, but it's important to also keep in mind that those people are also witnesses, so they can also be contaminated. So sometimes you have to keep in mind that maybe the firefighter who showed up first, or the paramedic that showed up first, is also a witness who needs to be separated and interviewed and stuff like that.
100%, and always make sure that we are interviewing our witnesses separately and not together. And also, we talk about chain of custody a lot, and I think that people tend to think that those are just with physical objects, but they can also be with people, right? You need to keep track of where our witnesses are, and
who was there first,
and just know what happened and who was where and when the crime happened, just so that we understand why Gracie's DNA is all over Calvin's desk, right? And so just understanding those things is very important.
So we can go into our primary search versus secondary search. So the primary search is basically just a walkthrough throughout the crime scene, just documenting what they see, who's there, who was there first, what time they got there, any evidence they might see as well. There is going to be a further search, which is in the secondary. The secondary search is when they actually go through and, I guess, search it in more detail. We do have a couple. Screen keeps going dark. We have search patterns, so we can also show you examples. But should we go into that now?
Sure.
So the first one is a spiral search pattern.
And there's two types of spiral searches. So we have our spiral search where you start in one corner and then you go around and all the way to the middle, which could be where the dead body is. Or we have an outward spiral, which is starting in the middle and then going around the room and seeing everything and ending at the corner. Then we have line search. A line search is basically, it's pretty self-explanatory, where you stand in a line and then you shoulder, and then just move like a wall.
And that's usually used for outdoors and combing areas, feeling for something in a wide search area.
Like a forest.
Yeah, a lot of the search patterns differ. What you're going to use in the crime scene or the situation, it differs between where you are and the environment you're in. So we're in your classroom, McHenry, so we could probably use, if there weren't desks, a line search just because it's super square.
But also like a grid search.
Yeah.
A grid search is basically like having like breaking the
Little sections.
Yeah. I mean, like, and I think a grid search would be perfectly in here in the room because the floor has boxes.
Everyone would get a little box and
Yeah.
go. Yeah, I do think that's good.
Because, you know, when it comes to looking and searching and crime scene, it's very important to not miss anything. We see a lot of misinformation in Tara's case, right? They miss a lot of key details that could help. For example, like the necklace. The necklace that she had worn, it had been broken off, so we could indicate some type of force. And the clasp actually had fallen underneath the couch, I believe it was.
Yeah.
Right?
Or
It was in the.
Might have
I
been
thought it was the
floorboard.
bed.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, like
Yeah.
under. Yeah.
Yeah, but it was underneath something, and it was missed because there wasn't a proper search done to gather information. It was found, I think, like weeks later.
Yeah,
It
the
was
first
found. It wasn't even
initial
found by the
search,
police.
They
It was
didn't find
found,
anything.
Yeah,
By
it was
the
found
private
by the
investigator.
private investigator.
Maurice, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, but it might have been also partially because they didn't treat it as a crime scene at first because they thought she
The
was just
tar
like
gone.
she was gone.
Yeah.
But-
Which, I mean, that was one of a huge issue in that
Yeah.
entire case.
Yeah.
But the initial search, they didn't really find anything. They were like, oh, there's no sign of a struggle. Like, she just ran away, which was kind of the narrative already in their mind as she ran away. So I feel like that gave them tunnel vision.
But you have to, I think, like, when you get 911 call and, like, there's, like, any 911 call, where you go, it should be treated as a crime scene until you know that, okay, there isn't a threat or the initial crime didn't happen here. It's a secondary crime scene. And just, like, securing it off and then, like, figuring out those things and then being like, okay, is this a crime scene or is this just, did she just get up and leave? Yeah, it's very important.
I think that was also, they didn't secure the crime scene or Tara's house properly, especially because there was many people like Tara's sister and a lot of people who were at her house as they were searching it and were like, oh yeah, you missed this glove, that none of them apparently even
Which is so
wrote down
strange.
or documented. And I guess they were like, no, we did, but it wasn't, there was no number next to it, there was nothing like that. So
Yeah, and it's just like there's just so many people going in and out of the house. So that was also another key detail of why the crime went unsolved for such a long time, because there was DNA like all over the house, right? And it was simply because they didn't properly take care of it or secure. This is pissing me off. Or secure the crime scene.
I do actually think that brings you back to what you're saying with chain of custody of people.
Yeah,
Because,
yeah.
like, that's like, for example, like, we've had this, I feel like McHenry's made this example a lot in class, but if he, died in this classroom, is murdered, and there's fingerprints everywhere, that's documentation of, okay, everyone in this classroom. And the same with that is who's been going into Tara's house, which they didn't really do a good job of documenting that, especially because there was the the police officer that was a family friend, her sister, people from the school were there. They just didn't do a very good job with
Of like securing the crime scene, and it also just like ended up bringing up a lot of speculation of like what was happening and what happened to Tara.
Yeah.
I think, right?
Yeah, I feel like a lot of the stuff that's talked about is like the glove, and since the crime scene wasn't super well, people were saying that the family friend was suspicious because he never found the glove.
Right.
But when the crime scene's that unsecure, it could have been possible that someone put it put it there while they were searching, or it could have been a glove that one of the officers was using,
like
and they even
planted.
draw.
Oh, yeah.
Or like someone
Yeah.
like planted it there.
Yeah.
And we would never know because chain of
Mhm.
custody was locked. And so
Yeah.
I'm going to talk a little bit about what is chain of custody. So
Or wouldn't that be more in one
Oh,
of the other things?
yes.
Probably.
Sorry.
Wrong video.
Wrong
Yeah.
video.
Do we want to talk about contamination?
sure.
Oh yeah.
So what is contamination? So basically it's like not like How would you describe it?
So,
It's
anyone can really contaminate a crime scene or anything. So it can even be of just, ooh, your email's blowing up over there.
Someone's angry.
So you can like contaminate something just by pouring water or coffee.
Or like
on it.
let's talk about it without like a crime scene. So like
Yeah.
in like medical fields, right? A scalpel, right? The second that an incision is made, the blade is not contaminated with your flesh, your DNA, with blood, right? Then they have to take the thingamabobber and put it in solution to uncontaminate it.
Yeah.
But the thing about the crime scenes and whatnot is once something is contaminated, it's not easy to uncontaminate, right?
And it's also important to talk about with contamination
There
that
you are.
contamination can either be from something outside the crime scene coming in or
Yeah.
from something inside the crime scene coming out. So it
So-
can go both ways as a
Yeah.
two-way street.
And a couple of examples of this.
There you are again.
Okay, this is really awkward. A couple of examples of like cross contamination is say that Calvin is killed by Gracie.
Oh.
And Gracie runs away, and I'm the first responder. And Gracie used a knife to kill Calvin. And Calvin, if you get killed tonight, do not blame it on me.
I'm not going to be
She
blaming on
manifests the
anybody. I
story.
think I'll be dead.
And then I go and, I'm like looking, and I'm like, oh my god, like what happened? And I find the weapon, and I pick it up without a glove, and I'm like, oh my god, look, I found it! Now everyone's looking at me like I have like 2 horns growing out of my head, and they're like, what the heck, Amber? Why did you? Now your fingerprints all over it. And then it's just really awkward in court when you have to be like, yeah, so I actually didn't do my job. properly.
My fingerprints were on
Yeah.
that because I picked it up without a glove.
Yeah, and it kind of discredits you in the future as well because it's a big mistake that
100%,
potentially led to a case.
You're probably gonna get fired.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You're probably never gonna be able to get a job in law enforcement.
Environmental factors can also contaminate a scene, not just a person. So maybe the wind. Oh my god.
Oh my god,
Maybe,
I fell into it.
The crime scene is outside in a muddy forest and it's super windy, and we have maybe a fingerprint on a knife or something, and the wind blows a bunch of mud and dirt over the knife. The what's it called? It's the murder weapon, and the
murder
That's me fake face tapping. And the fingerprint is smudged and gone. That is a really huge thing. Rain can also, if it's pouring rain and the rain gets on the knife and it smudges the fingerprint off the knife, then you're also screwed. So you have to use maybe like tents or something to secure the murder weapon, and that's also a part of securing the crime
Yes.
scene.
Also, just making sure that like only law enforcement, detectives, professionals are going into the crime scene, and that you just don't have like random people walking around, right? Because they don't know protocol, like they don't know what to do. Just taking everyone out of the crime scene is very helpful as well to keep cross contamination at low as possible.
I think also talking about environmental contamination, it's not always just evidence being destroyed by like heat or rain or mud or something like that. It could also be stuff like cold weather conditions, which cause their body to be like freeze over, and then it's preserved longer, which can throw someone off. Yeah.
Yeah.
Or if there's like condensation, you have to think about how are we going to preserve, if there's like a fingerprint in condensation on glass, you're going to think, how are we going to preserve this,
Yeah.
but that's also getting into evidence collection and gathering. Which
Yeah,
is next
and
week.
also like
So.
there was like this like one famous like killer, and he like would kill for like the mob. Can you? Do you know what I'm talking about? And like he would like put their dead body on a
Yeah.
thing of ice.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
So you couldn't tell when it messes up. What is it called? Rigor mortis?
Yeah,
Yeah.
Rick and Morty.
How, Rick and Morty. How their body decomposes. And Calvin also mentioned earlier that contamination can also be brought to the crime scene. So maybe you're an officer who was just on a little hike up in a
forest.
up in a forest or a mountain, and you get called into work ASAP because there's a crime scene in a very different part of wherever you live, different place. And you go walk into the crime scene and
You get your
muddy shoes.
prints.
Yeah, you're bringing in a foreign soil or mud to the crime scene that isn't already there. So that contaminates it because, well, one, they don't know if that soil was from you or if it was, maybe from a secondary crime scene from the defendant or the criminal. So it's very important that you make sure that does not happen.
And just putting those FEMA bobbers on your foot. What are they called?
Like bags?
Yeah,
they look like the ones you put on your head.
Like hairnets?
Yeah.
For your feet. Just making sure,
Feet
like
nets.
I've mentioned, just making sure that all cross contamination is low as possible. Yes,
It's also really important that you make sure to always document the crime scene very, very thoroughly. In case you do accidentally track mud all through it, if you document the house doesn't have any mud on it, or you take pictures before you go through, then it will show that the mud is not a part of the crime scene you brought in. I mean, ideally you don't contaminate it, but it's better that you have a documented crime scene before it was contaminated.
And never try to hide things, because if you try to hide things, they are going to come
And
back
it's
up
gonna
and
be
bite
way
you
worse
in the
when
butt.
it
Yeah.
gets brought up.
Yeah, I'm just
Yeah.
making sure that you take pictures, of everything.
It also is the beginning of chain of custody when you're doing your initial walkthrough and documenting everything, and then
Which
say
we'll get more into
the
later.
secondary, they go and do the secondary search, and then they find something that wasn't there when you did your initial walkthrough and when you were documenting.
This keeps showing up.
So early. When you're doing your original documentation, then okay, well, somebody brought this in here. This wasn't here before. That's definitely really important to make sure you are being very thorough with your.
100%. I think it's just very important to be thorough, especially in any aspect of law enforcement, and just making sure that I to live where I was gonna say.
Do we want to do examples of?
I know.
our
I was saying we should do
searches?
searches,
You know
and we
what's
should
so-
get McHenry to do it too. McHenry can help us.
Calvin, you
demonstrating
just
search.
read my mind by doing that.
Perfect.
McHenry.
So basically, let's start
use
with.
the chair
Okay. Yeah.
for
Here.
our last couple minutes of our video.
So this
McHenry, you should come help us do searches.
He's he's not going to.
He doesn't want to be in the video.
Shoulder to
Yeah,
shoulder.
let's do. So this is a line
Okay.
search.
Yes.
Let's go that way a little bit.
Calvin, I don't bite.
Just all right, this is the
Okay.
line, sir. And we're just gonna
I'll move
walk.
at the same pace.
And
Yeah.
everyone look down at their area. This is so you don't. This is really good for a large field.
Yes.
I'm off.
When they do Calvin's on camera. They use this especially for forests, when they're doing we saw this a lot in missing child cases, and they use this to do a walkthrough through a forest in big fields.
It's really good because you can just keep track of what's on the ground here in your area. That's
So,
a
everyone's
benefit
focusing
of a lot of
right.
these
Yeah.
searches is
Like,
you
right here.
narrow the area you're focusing on.
Uh-huh.
So you can,
And then we have a spiral search. So
yes.
basically, I will
Which
show this
one are we
one.
doing?
Yeah, I'll get
Oh,
it.
okay.
So basically this is my corner, and this is dead body. I'm going to go around and around.
She's on the outside of the building right now.
Yeah, and then eventually, ideally this would be done in a really big space. I'd reach the center.
And it helps get different perspectives and viewpoints on the body,
Yes.
and the blood splatter as well. If there's any blood,
Do you want to do the other one?
is that where you start in the middle?
Yeah.
So the other one, you're gonna start in the center of the room. Just pretend this is the big room, or where the body would be, and you just. It's just a backwards one. Just go all the way around.
And then we have.
We could demonstrate the ray search.
Yeah.
Where
So we all start.
we
back
all
to back.
start back to back in a circle.
Wait, we're not in the. Okay, ready? 3, 2, 1.
Okay.
Step out.
Step out.
And you
Okay.
walk
And
in a
then
straight line.
you walk in a straight line. And this one's beneficial because it's when you're searching around here in this area, you're searching more. It helps you cover a wider space if you know, there might be more stuff around here and less stuff out over there. We can still search that way because as you all go out, the area that you're searching broadens, so it's not going to be as specific what you're getting into.
100%.
yeah.
Yeah. But yeah.
That's our final.
That's our first video.
Hope you
Next
enjoyed
video is about, what is our next video about?
I think it's
Crimes,
evidence.
evidence collection, and
Peace out.
Like,
Say
subscribe.
peace, Calvin.
peace.